podcast. Come take this walk with me.
Welcome back to the Three Parallels podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we were, we embrace who we are, and we make room for who we're trying to become. If that is you, you are in the right place at the right time. Welcome. If you're new, hello. If you're an old person, what up? So we're diving in today because I'm bringing you a guest that's my sister from another mister, and this woman is bad. I'm talking about Janet Jackson. Hat, gloves, she is bad, right? And this particular person, I am such a fan of because she played a huge role in my life during a certain time in my career. And I feel as though I did the same for her. And we've been trying to get this podcast together with her on the show, but she's busy. She got a lot she's doing. She got a lot going on. What she's doing and what's going on. She's a mom of two. Hey, mama. This is a shout out to all the mamas out there. She's married. She's doing her thing. She's a professor. She's a therapist. Her and Brené Brown are cool. Like, don't tell nobody. Y'all keep it low key, but they really cool. They run the streets together. We used to run the streets together because today's show, as you know, we're coming to you live from Battlecat Studios. Where's Battlecat Studios? I'm glad you asked. We're coming to you live from Red Bank, New Jersey, and Prospect Hill Apartments, because that's where it all began for me and her. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce to you all the Dr. Sarah Springer. Welcome to the show, baby.
Thank you. So happy to be here, Dr. Branch.
Yes, indeed. I'm happy you're here because we got a lot to talk about. And I want to start from the top of where are you now? What are you doing now? Let the people know what's happening. Where you at? What you doing?
Yeah. So I am in Jersey, and not Jersey Shore, although we have worked at the Jersey Shore. So I am an associate clinical professor at Seattle University, is the main gig. I also am a supervisor, and I supervise a lot of school counselors who are pursuing mental health licensure. Mom of two, as you mentioned. My kids are 3 and 5, so a lot going on for them, and for us. I was a former school counselor, and so just trying to live this life and make sure that my kids are getting what they need, and also thinking about the identity that I had as a school counselor and all the things that I would work with parents on, and now thinking of myself as a parent, thinking like, wow, okay, that was really hard, some of the stuff that I suggested. No, but it's great because I have a really strong identity as a school counselor educator, as a clinical mental health counselor educator, and as a supervisor. And so I'm grateful to have lots of different spaces that I can connect with people, that I can share my passion. And I do a little bit of writing on the side as well.
Okay. All right. I appreciate your modesty. Y'all got to know she's a big deal. I'm talking about a real big deal. I just got to give it. I got to give it. So I'm curious because everybody doesn't enter this profession. And for you to get here, I'm sure there's a story there. So if you don't mind sharing with us, what made you decide to become a clinician, especially in the school counseling direction, and just being able to help and serve? Where did this come from?
Yeah. So as an undergrad, I actually was a music education major, and I loved it. I was a singer. I really enjoyed it. But one of the greatest moments for me was when I was in middle school in my internship or field placement, whatever you call it. I forget now. And my students would come up to me after choir and say, this thing happened in school. Like, can I talk with you? And so I had these moments where I had to figure out they got to go back to class. But they obviously, there's more than just music happening here. There's more than just, academics happening. And these kids, are looking for support. So I had the opportunity to sort of get the aha moment there. And then I ended up teaching a couple of the students after I graduated and doing some like private voice lessons and things like that. And I really enjoyed it, but I really enjoyed their stories. And so that sort of then led me to decide that I was going to transition my career to school counseling. I think a lot of people go into the school counseling world. Well, people go in for a lot of different reasons, but sometimes it's because they had a really wonderful experience with school counselors. And sometimes it's because they did not have a wonderful experience with school counselors, or they had no experience. So for me, I kind of in the middle. I had a couple of key moments that I remember, not as positive, Lee. But I think for me, the opportunity to be able to service a lot of kids at one time, to be able to help support sense of belonging in schools, things like that was sort of where I started. So I took my first position in Princeton, and then I got married and I moved up to northern New Jersey and to start a brand new position. They had never had an elementary school counselor. By the way, I had always thought I was going to be a high school counselor. And so in my internship, I was in a high school, and it was actually my home high school. And I had a great experience, really connected with everybody. There was a guy that was supposed to retire. And so they all but showed me my office until the guy never retired. And so one of the tips that I always give, no, you don't have to look like that, because that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Because the thing is, I would have taken that position, which I'm sure would have been great, but I wouldn't have realized my passion for other things. So what ended up happening is I ended up applying elsewhere, and I ended up taking a job in the elementary school. And listen, I babysat, I'd been a camp counselor, but counseling elementary, I did not have experience in my graduate program. So that's where I really learned to lean on the resources that existed in the school, outside of the school, and things like that. And I fell in love with elementary school counseling, excuse me. And it became such an important part for me of being able to set the stage for kids to understand what mental health meant, and what it was, and how the feelings teacher was actually a part of the school, and a part of normal everyday humanity. Wow. And I think that was such an important part for me, because, a lot of people were like, I don't ever want to do elementary. Like, you can't talk to kids, but you can. And in fact, I could lean on some of my music background. I could lean on the art, the arts in other ways too. So that was great. So I took this position. So I was in Princeton, got married, took this position in North Jersey, was hired to start a brand new program from the ground up, which was awesome. Although I, wasn't sure how people would receive me, and the district really received me beautifully. And as such, I could really grow this program, learn more about myself, connect with other people. And it just so happens because, Jason, one of the interesting things is I tend to have these experiences with a neighbor next door to me in an apartment. You're one of them. And in fact, now that we're talking about this, I'm realizing that when I was working there, we had a neighbor who, she and her husband were master's students in school counseling, and we're going to go on to doctoral work. And I was like, doctoral work? You mean like to be a psychologist, right? And they're like, no. Counselor education. And I'm like, what in the world is that? That's not something I was taught. So anyway, these people are still in my life in different ways. And it's really interesting because as I saw their process and they were thinking about, what it meant to be a professor, it was never something I had been exposed to, certainly nobody in my family. And it was something like, wow, okay, this is interesting. So at the same time, I was realizing at the elementary school that there was only so much I could do with my kind of small community. And so I like the idea of being able to reach more people, do more systemic work, things like that. So it just so happened that maybe not down the street, but not that far, there was a program that was offering a part-time doctoral program where I could still work full-time. So I was like, well, all right, we'll give it a shot. So I did, and I fell in love with it. And so all of a sudden, my career trajectory changed. Now, just to mention back to, what I said before about this high school position that I thought I was going to get. This was right out of my grad program. That was in Southern New Jersey. Had I stayed at that program, there was really no possibility for me to have done this, or even probably been exposed to or done this work in doctoral studies, because the program was 2.5 hours away. And at that point, it was fully in person and everything. So that was a huge, maybe called a sliding door moment in my life where, while one door closed, the other one opened. And of course, I didn't know what that meant, but there we are. So there's a snippet.
Wow. That's huge. I appreciate you sharing all of this, because you're talking about three parallels. That's what you just brought up. And I want to highlight these three parallels, because what I heard was, you started off a career as a singer. Like, you probably could have went professional if you wanted to. You really could have stayed in that lane, but you decided to shift. This is my opinion. I'm entitled to it. So in my opinion, my perspective, you probably could have went pro. And the reason I say that, I got to take a pause because we're in the basement now. The reason I say that, Dr. Springer, you work at a high level no matter where you are, what you're doing. So if you were a singer, if that's where you would have stayed, in my mind, yes, American Idol at least. But you probably would have had an album or two, something, because you work at a high level. Here's my evidence. You transitioned from a singer to this position, a high school counselor, and you worked at a very high level, so high, everybody sees you, and you're seeing everybody that gave you an opportunity. Hey, maybe I could do more. Maybe I could go further, which allowed you to go to the doc program, which to me, that's three parallels: who you were, who you are, who you're becoming. So, from my perspective, you've always been that because I know you, and you may not even give yourself credit for it because it's just your norm. Humility at its finest. So for me, on the outside looking in, this is what I mean for those who are listening, that we're greater than we give ourselves credit for. We just don't know it. We don't see it because we're not paying attention. We pay attention to the life that we live, not the life that we've created. And Sarah, you have created a life that I'm very proud of because I was here with you. And this part of your story, I wasn't there. So you're giving me access just like with the listeners. And I'm curious to know, how are you able to make three huge monumental pivots and still we ain't even got to where you are now. This is still talking about the old version of you. How have you been able to make these pivots and then be confident in it? Also looking at the evidence, like if I would have stayed, this would have happened. But you
Mhm.
just seem to have this tenacity of taking risks, being courageous, and just figuring it out as you go. Where did that come from?
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about this, and so one of the things I do draw a lot of inspiration from some of Brene Brown's work, and one of the things I really appreciate that she talks about is her definition of integrity is choosing courage over comfort,
Woo. Whoa, time
and
out, whoa,
I
time
think
out,
that
whoa. You're not just gonna drop that bomb and leave. Listen. You're not finna just listen. This
that's
is
not
your
my
no.
words.
Again, this is your no. I told y'all she Brene Brown people, all right? I told y'all. That is so powerful, it's so profound because a lot of people don't give themselves permission to do that. So if you don't mind, share with us a little bit more about this concept related to courage and how you got connected to Brene Brown with this whole new mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was just kind of doing it. Like
Mm.
I have a lot of different pieces of evidence throughout my career where, I saw something, let's just say that I thought needed a little work, or that needed, or and in myself and also in others and in systems, and that, I would say that probably started even before my counseling career. But for me, I always thought it was important to use my positionality in every respect, identity wise, positionality in the school system as a school counselor, all of this to um, speak truth, right? Speak truth to reality. And that's
Mm.
something I know is super important for both of us. And that's
Yes.
something we've talked about so often.
Yes.
And I think that, I'm not gonna lie, it's gotten me in trouble sometimes. And it's been difficult sometimes, right? Because people don't want to hear it, people aren't ready for it. My patience is not always the greatest sometimes. And so I want things to happen faster than they do or faster than people are ready. And that's definitely a continued growing edge for me. But I mean, I think overall, I think that I've always been somebody who wants to have authentic relationships with people and be in spaces where people are being authentic with me. And so if we're being authentic, then we're talking about what's working, but we're also recognizing what's not working, as uncomfortable as that is. And so that has always been something. I probably got that from my family of origin. I would say from my dad. Never expressed necessarily that way, but he would always talk about doing the right thing. Not that there was always a right thing, but thinking through decisions in that way. So I think that that's been a catalyst for why I continue to put myself in, where I could just coast. Coasting is not really my MO, although maybe sometimes it should be, but probably would serve me better in some ways. But for me, it's if I have an opportunity, if there is an opportunity, and I have the privilege to be in a position where I have that opportunity, then I feel like I need to do something with it. I want to do something with it,
Wow.
and I want my people to come with me. And when I say my people, I mean, you know what I mean by that, but like the people that share a similar vision, not the same ideas, not the same feelings, in fact, quite the opposite, right? But that want to do good work and want
Mm.
to be really want to move society in a direction that's healthy, which is
Wow.
not always what we see.
Ooh, you talking about facts now. You speaking facts, you speaking truth. And I just need you to know, like, you are a blessing to me. You're a blessing to this show. You're a blessing to
Thanks.
everyone listening because this is your life. This is your truth. And I respect and value it. And I love your journey, just hearing about your journey. Because again, we're just at the doc program. We ain't even got to this other place in space. And you're already integrating this future stuff into the present, which to me connects to your identity around being a visionary. So, what I hear is your ability to fill in the gaps. You see gaps wherever you are and you fill them. There was a gap even with me coming to Monmouth that nobody filled, and that's in a previous episode for those who listen. I shared about the gap that I had, and you filled it for me. You know, that's just who you are. And I'm so thankful for that because nobody else filled the gap for me, and you did. And because of that, we established a partnership, and look where we are now. So I'm very thankful for
Well,
that.
you filled the gap. Well, you did the exact same thing for me. I think we met at the perfect time for both of us. And it was just, yeah,
Agreed.
very
100%.
grateful.
100%. So diving deeper into this doc program, because we may end up in the basement, and that's okay, because the basement is where the magic happens. So you deciding, yeah, I could be a school counselor. I could stay here and do this, but there's more. You saw more. You knew that you could do
Yeah.
more, and you decided to go further with the doc program. What was that experience like for you? And did you know or have an idea that you would end up where you are now, or you just figuring it out as you go? Curious to learn more.
Yeah, well, a lot of responses there. So I think that I think trusting my intuition has always been something that has been challenging for
Mm,
me. And so not having a plan where I saw the end result was uncomfortable for me. But I don't shy away from from discomfort. I lean into it. Sometimes kicking and screaming, but I do. In this case, yeah, I think I just saw that there was so much more I wanted to do, and I could not see myself for the rest of my career in, in just, I don't say just as an elementary school counselor, not, but I knew I wanted to stay in that space and support the space, but there was more. And you know what? I'm a person too that I don't like to do the same thing every day. And one of the greatest parts about being a school counselor is you're never doing the same thing every day. And that reminded me that like I need to find something, whatever else I'm going to find, I want it to be, I want to be doing pockets of things. I want to be doing a lot of everything, which again is why you and I connect so well. I'm in my doc program. I'm still working full time as a school counselor. I'm starting to learn how to write academically, which was a whole different ball game, as you probably remember.
yes, indeed.
And I'm also learning a lot about myself. Some of it, some really hard things about not only my priorities, but some of the insecurities around my own, again, trust in my intuition, but also my efficacy. Can I really do this? So I was really grateful that I had a lot of people around me that were supportive, that had gone through the process, not family, but I was cultivating relationships with people who knew people or obviously professors, things like that. And so, it was a journey. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, oh yeah, I breezed through that doc program. It was great. I don't know anybody who ever does, and if they do, they're lying. If they tell you that they're lying, there's just no way. There's always something. But I'm grateful because there were a lot of waves in that program in terms of just me learning about and gaining confidence in who I was and who I wanted to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that, and it's an exercise of like the long game, right? I like to check the box, get stuff done, and there's a whole lot of boxes to check. And I remember somebody said to me with my dissertation, remember your dissertation is not going to change the world, and if you take an opportunity to use it as to learn a little bit about the research process and to keep a notebook of all of the things that are you're passionate about that you can do in the future. And that was important advice for me because that allowed me to just, they say a good dissertation is a done dissertation. Yes. I mean, I look back, actually, I don't read my dissertation anymore. Or I never probably actually read it full through anyway. But I I that was such a process of learning about myself, but it was also a nod, and I'm thinking about this now. It was a nod to the people in my life. When I wrote that appreciation in my dissertation, like in the first or second page or whatever, it was a nod to my grandfather, who was a professor who loved mentorship. That's, one of the biggest things I remember about him is he was at the master's level and did like adjuncting work. So that wasn't his like main work, but he adjuncted at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh area. And all I would hear from my grandmother and from him was his mentees and how he would invite his mentees over for dinner. And it was just, that was such a source of pride, was mentorship. And so that was the model, I guess, that I did receive. And then and actually I didn't realize even until maybe even now talking about it, how important that was and how I took that into, thinking about myself as a mentor, thinking about what I want from a mentor, things like that. So,
Wow.
so I'm grateful for all of that. But I guess my point here is that all of the things that I wrote about were the influence that people had on my life, at different, it wasn't, I was grateful for the space and the time, but it was the people who gave me these pockets of motivation, who reminded me of who I was, who reminded me of why I'm doing this journey. And that is something that I continue to think about, because cultivating that community is arguably the most important thing that I did and that I try to do now.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. And thank you so much for sharing. And although our relationship has been as long as it has been, I never heard this side. I never heard this side of the story, which is what I love about the podcast. It just organically things come up and come out. And that's what I love about the show. And you talking about your grandfather, adjunct masters, correct? That was grandfather?
Yep.
Okay. That
Yep.
mentoring piece, it makes even more sense to me now, because that's what you did for me. As a first year faculty, you mentored me. You were the only one at that time at that institution. And it makes sense now. This is like full circle, where that's how, it was respect. It was a mutual connection and a friendship as colleagues, but you went the extra mile. And this makes sense to why. And I was open and receptive to receive what you had to offer. And that's why you gave so much. And that's why you gave more. And look,
Well,
look where we are now.
and I think it's so important, because it's not like a thing you have to do or a thing you want. Like, if we want to be surrounded by people who are going to be, I mean, we're better together, right? When we're collectively bringing our ideas to the table, when we are, creating opportunities for students, for our profession to grow things, like, we have to be connected to some degree. It doesn't mean you have to love everyone, right? But I can only imagine, and part of this is just simply empathy. It is just simply putting yourself in someone else's shoes and saying, gosh, I wonder what that would be like if I needed to move across the country while I'm finishing dissertating, coming to a brand new area, and not knowing, people, places, and things. I mean,
For sure.
and so, what would that be like for me? Here's the other thing, though, and I'm trying to remember exactly the timeline, but yeah, no, of course, this is the timeline, right? So that is also just after I had gotten divorced. And I want to say this because I think this is important to our relationship also, because I was kind of scooped up by a couple of people and my community when I was transitioning to another house, to another area. I didn't know Red Bank at all, right? I didn't know this apartment complex at all, right? And Lisa, actually, who we worked with, was the one that said, Sarah, I know somebody who can help you. Come down here, take a look at my space, take a look at this. And so, for me, the right people, my cousin, a couple other people showed up at the right time, helped me kind of make that transition and said, this is where you belong, and I'm going to be here, if and when there's anything you need. So I think that feeling, it was a natural progression. Like, why wouldn't I didn't know what it was like moving from a different state, but I certainly knew what it was like. My whole world flipped upside down, and now kind of moving on and coming to, to a different direction, a different location. So I think that my natural tendency, as well as my life experiences, it was just easy, and I want to work with good people. And so why don't I try to connect? And Jay, if you remember, you and I weren't even, like, I wasn't even in your interview.
Exactly.
Like, I hadn't even met you.
Yes. These are facts.
I just randomly emailed you, cold emailed you.
I know what you look like or nothing. And to
No.
the listeners, if you listen to the last episode, this explains the story. So this is why I set the podcast up like this, especially for season 3, is to share the journey, the story. So you get the backstory, you get the front story, you get the story from the person, from the heart, and this is organic, and I love it. And I appreciate you explaining all of this because it makes even more sense. And I also feel as though this is full circle for you and I because we never talked about it at this level because we've never been here. We were always in it. But now we can look back at it because we both have left that place and space and we've built our own. We're creating our own. So I want to dive deeper because we finna go in the basement. We finna go deep. Okay. But that's what we do anyway. We
We
just
always
bring
go
people
deep.
in. You mentioned something about learning more about yourself, and that exposure and that awareness kind of shifted a lot of things. I'm curious to learn more about learning about yourself. What did that look like? What are some things that came out? Was therapy a part of this? Like, how did you begin paying attention to learning more about you?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see, I want to say it was maybe my second year of the doc program. Somebody had given me The Gifts of Imperfection, one of Brené's first books. And I was thinking about it in reference to some of my dissertation ideas. But as I'm reading this and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I am totally a recovering perfectionist
Welcome
and
to the
still in
club, baby.
recovery.
Welcome to the club.
Right, right. And I was like, wow, this, thinking about how perfectionism has impacted the way that I show up with myself, that I show up with others, the way that I armor up, as Brene Brown talks about, and I try to, the thing about, there's a difference between perfectionism and healthy striving, she talks about, right? Perfectionism is about trying to get other people to to see you in a certain light, and healthy striving is you versus yourself. But can we really manage other people's expectations of us? No. And the harder we try, the more we try to perfect it. And like, that's a problem. And so, that's what I was noticing, is that for many years of my life, I was constantly trying to manage other people's perceptions, excuse me, of me. And so in doing so, whether it was people pleasing, whether it was, just putting myself out there so much that I was resentful that I would be given 1,000% and others would be giving like 1%. That's what it felt like anyway. But like, I was just constantly burning myself out. And I was noticing and just, and part of that too was to have, to be able to believe in myself and to be able to, try to think of the word, hustling for worthiness is what comes to
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah.
right? This idea of how do I get people to see how hard I'm working, or what I'm capable of,
Yeah.
right? And that was exhausting. That
Mm.
hustling was exhausting. So in it, when I first read The Gifts of Imperfection, I was like, oh shit, this is totally me. And you know what? Like, she talked about these guideposts to help you with this, that included like play and art and all these things that I had actually kind of cut out of my life, even though I went to school for music,
Yeah.
but Sarah, go, here, either study or go, play somewhere, go joke around, go to a comedy club, whatever. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. Right. And that became sort of the norm a little bit for me. And I'm like, what is happening? I'm not able to shut my brain off. So I
Mm.
think that is something that I started really unpacking in my doctoral work.
Yeah.
In my master's work, actually, even before that, I started seeing myself in a lot of different spaces as well, too, because I was up in New York City.
Mhm.
And that was the first opportunity for me to really study with folks from all over the world. And I really learned a lot about myself. I really learned a lot about my privilege. I really learned a lot about how I was really how I wanted to show up in the world, and how I wanted to be able to use my gifts to be able to empower others.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where that started. And then, doctoral work, I was like, okay, but I got a lot of barriers here that I'm putting on myself.
Mm.
So I need to work through that. So you asked about therapy and all that. Absolutely. I mean, therapists need therapy. We all do.
Facts.
And need, actually, I'm going to get rid of the word need,
Mm.
because it's not necessarily about need. It's about the fact that every single person can benefit from, an objective person in their lives, from someone who is giving them opportunities to learn about themselves, giving them feedback, but I think in our society, we're so scared of feedback. We are so scared of someone actually seeing who we are. But actually, that's what we need. We need more of showing who we are, all
Yes.
the flaws, all the humanity.
Yes.
So anyway, I
Talk
just got
that
on my
shit, Dr. Springer. Talk it. Talk
well,
it.
so for me, um, being able to walk the walk, talk,
Yeah.
walk the talk rather, was incredibly important. I could not stand before, I still can stand with my students in conjunction with my students and talk about how important it is to go to therapy if I'm not doing it myself, because we all have room to grow, a ton of room to grow.
Yes.
And it's not in our best interest or our client's best interest if we, don't continue that
Oh man,
process.
and this is so good. Oh, I'm so thankful you on the show. Okay, I'm so thankful because you're dropping gems, or as I call these gems, these are breadcrumbs. You're giving the listeners breadcrumbs, things that they can use to help them become the best version of themselves. And breadcrumbs are all around us all the time, hidden in plain sight. You started eating them, and not only did you benefit yourself from this experience, you also shared the wealth. So here's an example of of your words remaining true. Your experience of learning about yourself, once it started, it's continued. Because when we first met, and I don't know if you remember this or not, for the listeners, when we first met, one of the things I noticed were, because you shared it with me, you were reading a book at the time because you're very well read. So I believe Brené Brown led you to these other books. And one of the books that you were reading is I wasn't even familiar with at the time, but it was about white fragility. You mentioned privilege in this book about white fragility, and I was shocked because in the counselor profession, counselor education is dominated by white women, white men. So as me, a black man, I'm inundated with white people. However, connecting with you, it was different because it wasn't about race. It was about culture. It's about connection. It was about humanity. It was about humility. And you showed me you early in our relationship. And that book was the moment that I saw you and who you wanted me to see. And you didn't mind being vulnerable because that was your journey and you shared it with me. So if you could, for those who may not even be familiar, may not have ever heard the book, or may not even recognize their own privilege, how did you get to that place to not only recognize your privilege, but to dive deep into it to figure out, am I hurting other people or myself with my privilege? Could you share with us about that?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it started. I think it started in a lot of there. There's a lot of, as you say, breadcrumbs. There was the stage was set for me in a lot of ways as I grew up because of the area that I grew up in, because of my interest in. I mean, I was also somebody who was very athletic, so I was in the sports world, I was in the music world, I was in the theater world, so I interfaced with so many different people. I played AAU basketball. I mean, like, so I had opportunities to be on teams. That's what I'll call them, whether they're
Mm.
choirs or they're basketball teams with a lot of different people, and to really be able to learn from and with people was always a priority. So I think that that was something that was important to me. I can think about just like being on the bus to volleyball games and having really open conversations with my teammates about, an upcoming holiday that they were celebrating and I was so interested the entire bus ride. Like I'm like thinking about a couple of moments right now where we would just, I mean, that was the norm for us. It was just, who are you? Who am I? What does this mean for us as we're learning and growing together? And that was always a priority. So when I went up to Teachers College for my master's program, for one of the first times in my life, I was thrown into an educational environment where I don't know the exact percentage, but there were definitely not a tremendous amount more white women than others, and so and that was important for me. I mean, I'm sure they're probably, I don't know the exact percentage, but there was so much emphasis on really unpacking how we experience the world. And there was a course that I took called Racial Cultural Counseling Lab. It was one of the most challenging courses that I've ever taken in my life. I mean, I was just actually hanging out with some of my master's folks before, and we were just talking about this particular class. And it was a course that really made you look in. You had to write, you had to present, and you had to be asked just lots and lots of questions about, you say that you identify as this. What does this mean? What's your evidence? How does this operate in the world? And people just really asking you to think about how you have, the spaces that you've walked in this world and how you have impacted the world and how the world has impacted you. And I remember, sort of your typical, feeling guilty first as a white woman. Oh my God, how did I not know about this? So moving from that space, which I think a lot of us get stuck in, right?
Mm.
To saying, okay, well, now that I'm aware of this, clearly there's some shit we need to do. Um, and so, so I think that I am so grateful for my cohort. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. I'm so grateful that people are willing to give me feedback, and to embrace when I asked for feedback and how I was being experienced. And I think that really set the stage for my inquiry, right? My curiosity about myself and others, and thinking if there's more that I can be doing, and of course there is, to be aware of who I am and how I can support people in ways that are just and equitable. This is not a want to, this is a need to. This is part of what I need to do in life. I mean, this is important to me. So anyway, so that was at the master's level. I forget what your initial question was. I'm sorry.
White Fragility, the book.
Right, fragility. Okay, all right. So right in line. Okay, good. So I don't remember what led to that particular book, but I remember that I was reading a bunch of things and I was like, you know what, we need to have this conversation in our internship class because, obviously our students have been talking about, their identities. They've been thinking about how, their privilege, because most of them were white women, of course, in our program. But we need to actually like dive in there and think about how and why we don't talk about this in different spaces, right? And we need to really think about, how fragility is a big part of that process, right? And so if we can have real, authentic conversations in these spaces as counselors, then we can challenge each other to keep showing up in our spaces with our clients from a place of humility.
Yeah.
And I think that was my kind of my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you could, like, because you and I, we talk about this all the time, but for somebody who's never heard this before, never heard the term, privilege and white privilege and fragility, if somebody doesn't know anything about this, like, how would you break this down to help people become exposed to this other world?
Wish you had prepared me to answer this question. I would have
You're
had a more
good. You're good.
response. I mean, I think the most distilled way, and I feel like this is such an important question that you're asking and requires and warrants such a more in-depth response in this. But the word that keeps coming to mind is humility, and you've mentioned this. It is sitting in a space of not knowing. It is being aware that there is so much about ourselves and our world and the person in front of us that we know nothing about. And so, we know what happens when we assume.
Yes.
And I think that between humility and the idea that was that really was highlighted in my master's program around cultural encapsulation, that was something that really, really has made me think a lot. Am I using my lens to make decisions or to assume or assert power over in a certain circumstance? People should be this way. And so one of the things that I think I've probably told you this, but in my classes, I always talk about with cultural encapsulation is a story with my sister when she had my niece who was like maybe a year old, and my niece was holding this toy owl, and she was at her little tray table and she's like banging this toy owl on the table, and my brother-in-law comes in and starts impersonating basically my niece and says, stop being nocturnal, stay awake during the day like the rest of us. And so like as she's like banging this owl, and I said, wait a second, that's a perfect example of cultural encapsulation, right? Because we're trying to say to that owl, you need to stay awake during the day like the rest of us, because you know what you should be doing in society? You should be sleeping at night. You should be awake during the day. And so that is how like I will kind of like in a perhaps lighter way,
Yes.
bring our attention to the fact that when we are assuming that other people should be acting, being, feeling, experiencing the world the way we are, then we are acting in this vacuum. And that hurts people. And
Mm.
so if we distill it down to that, and we can be open to, well, tell me a little bit more about your experience, that humility piece, our fragility goes down a
Yes.
little.
Perfect explanation. You didn't need to go do, you didn't need that other stuff. This is what I want. This is what makes the show so great. So people can understand that. They can relate to that. They can connect to that. Because sometimes we're so inundated with this life, like being at this level, we're so accustomed to it, we assume everybody's here. And a lot of times they're not. So what you explained to me, it can connect across the board for everyone. That's humility at its finest. And what I want to share relates to this is that's how you showed up for me. And that's why we got so cool so quick, because you saw me, and what you didn't know, you asked. You didn't assume. You were curious about me. And it's like, man, who is this woman who wants to know about me as a person? And that was everything for me. And for the listeners, I need you to imagine this. When Sarah and I first met in person was 6 months after we
That's
we
true.
met. So for us, like this woman who's Jewish talking to this black male, and we both had an opportunity to get to know about each other and each other's cultures that we never had an opportunity to share at this level. So for me, being in the South, born and raised in the Midwest and being in the South, I was only exposed to black and white, black people, white people. That's it. So culture was something that I had to learn later on, and you introduced me to Jewish culture, and it changed my life. I love, uh, whitefish salad to this day. Like, what I'm saying? Like, it's my thing. It's my thing. And learning about the culture, the religion, like everything about it, I couldn't have got that without you. And because you offered yourself to me and I did the same because it was safe, we were able to build beyond race. And some people never have that opportunity. So I thank you for being you. I thank you for learning about
Likewise.
yourself and being willing to learn about me, because that changed both of our lives. And I'm so thankful for that. And even to this day, when I connect with people who are a part of Jewish culture community, I understand more than I did before. And what you bring, like what I feel as though the theme around this episode relates to humility and humanity. It's
Yeah.
both. It's both. So we both stripped away all the stuff and we showed up as authentic, vulnerable, and human as possible, which is why we were able to build what we built. And for those who are listening, this is your evidence. This is your evidence. I didn't know Sarah from a can of paint. She ain't know me, but we knew each other's heart. We knew each other's
Mhm.
heart. So thank you for sharing you. Thank you for sharing your truth. Thank you for allowing us in your basement, because we all in it. We all on the couch. We is in your basement. But let's leave the basement. Let's go back upstairs to the kitchen because you finna cook. I got a few questions to dive in. And again, I do not, I am mindful. I really appreciate you sharing your truth with us, from your experience, your lived experience, for your honesty, your integrity, from talking about the divorce to where you are now. Like, you're married with 2 kids, you're good, you're doing
Mhm.
really, really well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't share that truth about themselves. And I'm
Yeah.
thankful that you did, because it's a part of your life. It's not your life, it's a part of it. It's a part of your story. It's a part of your glory. And I'm thankful
Mhm.
for it. So thank you. 100%. 100%.
Thank you. Well,
So
can I just mention one other thing too?
let's get it.
So Jason was not able to be at my wedding, unfortunately, COVID and lots of other things. But your gift to me, that crown, which is right here up in my office, I should have taken it down. It is at the highest point of my office. That is
Mm,
just a beautiful reminder of being seen. And
yeah.
I just want to highlight that because I appreciate all the love that you're sharing with me. I really, really do. And what you just said, I think, is so important because our relationship has been built on authenticity, it's been built on humility, and it's been built on seeing each other
Yes.
and wanting to see each other. And I think that I'm so grateful. I mean, you are in my workspace, and my workspace is in my home. So you are in my workspace and in my home all the time. And as such, you have been such an important part of my journey, and I'm so grateful.
I receive all of that. All of that. And to the listeners, we in your house too. Listen, we in, in your house, in your car, in your ear.
Yeah.
We are here. All right. So let's dive in. We in the kitchen.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm curious to know, out of all years of life, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you've experienced a whole lot. I'm curious to know, what have you learned about people and what have you learned about yourself?
So I took a few notes on this one because I
Okay.
was really thinking about that. All right, what have I learned about people? Of course, now I can't find it. Um, okay, all right. So, do you want people first or myself first?
Whatever you want to give, we want to take
Whatever.
it.
Okay. Okay. Well, some of which I've just talked about, right? I have a strong sense of integrity. That is something that I don't think I was able to name until probably the last 5 years ago. But it's not just I want to do good, but there's a need for me to keep putting myself in positions to grow. And that growth is really uncomfortable sometimes. So I have learned about that. I also mentioned that patience is hard. Well, guess what? It's still hard for me.
That's real.
And really, it's more patience with myself because I have, what I've also learned about myself is the importance of accepting what is
Ooh.
right now. And I think I've learned part of that from you, actually, Dr.
Okay,
Branch.
then.
Um, not necessarily saying I'm going to be complacent, but just saying it's okay. The humanity, the shared humanity of, we, and this actually goes with understanding other people too, is that, you know, we all have different lives, different experiences, different work styles. And I think it's important to accept people for where they are right now. And, you know, um, again, another little Brené Brownism, but she did a little research, actually, it was a very large research project. And she asked a question, in general, do you think people are doing the best that they can? And she talked about her initial reaction and other people's initial reaction. And at first, I was like, oh, hell no, people are definitely not doing the best that they can.
Mm.
But when I realized that, in fact, people are doing the best that they can in any given moment, then I then had a choice. I could accept and set boundaries around what was okay and not okay in my life, or I could even decide, you know what? I need to walk away right now. But I had a choice rather than to keep getting resentful, keep being angry, and then acting outside of my integrity. And that was such an important learning point for myself, but also for other people. And when I started seeing and accepting people for, where they are in their life, I felt lighter, so that I think was really important for me. So I also mentioned boundaries. Boundaries are an ongoing ongoing thing because I think that there's so much more we want to do, right? And so Jason, I'm sure for you too, you are, so gregarious and you are so, so many people know you, you're in so many different spaces that you probably get opportunities all the time, right? And it's like, okay, I might have this opportunity, but is this the right time? Right?
Absolutely.
Because I was so scared to say no to opportunities for fear that they wouldn't come back, that I would take on so much. And when you take on so much, you then potentially become less reliable. And when
Oof.
you become less reliable, you become less trustworthy.
Mm.
And for me to show up authentically with other people, I trustworthiness is really important. Reliability is really important. And I need to then learn how to say no to certain things so I can say yes to other things.
Oh, you are preaching. You are preaching. You are teaching. You are giving life. I need you to know that this is your norm. This is your life. And what you're sharing for many people who's never heard this before gives them permission to do something that you had to learn how to do. Like you had to live through that to learn. And now, for those who are listening, this is your blessing. This is your gift because you can now learn from somebody who's lived it and you don't have to live it anymore. And now you have a systematic way of making that change. Huge. I see you. I see
But
you.
it's imperfect. It's imperfect, Jason, right? Because
Of course.
my other, one of my other things that I love to talk about is that we are modeling imperfection all the time.
All
And when you have
day.
followers, when you have students, when you have, podcast followers, we need to, I think, collectively remind each other of our humanity,
That's right.
that perfection does not exist. And we're
Th-
constantly modeling
These are
screwing
facts.
up
These are
and doing it
facts.
again.
Yes, yes. And to me, with that, it's being okay with being yourself and doing the best you can with what you have. It's more than enough. And that's what we do all day, every day. So, with that, I'm curious to know a word, phrase, memory, or moment that has stuck with you personally or professionally you want to share with the listeners.
All right, let me think about this. Um, well, something that I live by is, gosh, I'm quoting Brené Brown a lot today.
Let's go. Hey,
You
let's
know,
get
well,
it.
you know what, one of the questions you had mentioned that maybe you would ask was something about my hero or something like this. And I don't really think I don't have a hero because to me, everybody is a person.
Yeah.
Everybody is a human. And so, even if I'm quoting people, that doesn't necessarily mean everything about people is, they're pockets. But anyway, one of the things that I really appreciate that she talks about is clear is kind and unclear is unkind.
Mm. Whew.
And so, whether it's as a professor, as a supervisor, as a friend, as a co-parent, as a spouse, um, if I'm not clear about what I need, what I want, what I wish, what I hope, I can't expect someone else to read my mind.
Mm.
And without the clarity, it's unkind because then we get frustrated, right? And then, there's an issue. And so for me, as clear as I can be, but I have to be clear with myself to be clear with other people first.
Yes. Yes. Oh, you are. This feel like a therapy session. So, just two therapists out here doing therapy work in these streets.
Yep,
So,
doing our thing.
if you could describe three parallels, who you were, who you are, you're becoming, those
Mhm.
three women, because those are three different women. If you could describe, it could be an adjective, it could be story, whatever you want to share. Those three people, who would you describe them to be?
Who I was in one word or
Yeah. Yeah. If one is not enough, you can do more.
yeah. Who I was someone hustling for worthiness. Had more insecurity than I'd like to admit to. Um, and someone who was trying to do the right thing, but was kind of selling myself out sometimes to do that, which was not in the service of wellness. Let's see who I am. Certainly a recovering perfectionist, and I have not been in, I'm not recovered yet. Um, I'm someone who takes pride in my intentions, but I also have a lot more to learn because sometimes I think I'm being intentional, but there's other factors that I'm unaware of. That's why I love that Joe Harry window that talks about, open to self and your blind spots and, receiving feedback. I'm someone who surrounds myself with people who are not going to tell me what I want to hear, but are telling me and will tell me what I need to hear. And that's a select few group of people, which Dr. Branch, you are one of them. And I am so deeply grateful for that because I don't really have a lot of a lot of time in my personal life to have people who are gonna, beat around the bush because that's not helpful for anybody. Um, and who am I becoming? Someone who's getting clear on my values, my personal values, my professional values. Someone who is working on setting better boundaries in service of self-care and sleeping. Um, uh, Somebody who is continuing to make relationships a priority um, for me. And even if that means saying no to other things that, might feel really good, but knowing that my relationships are what drive me, what support me, and being willing to lean on them I think is important. And I think that having those relationships and continuing to cultivate them, and I'm in a new season in my life, right? My daughter is going off to kindergarten next year. We're going to be, meeting families in our area. Right now, we pretty much don't know anyone. And so this is going to be walking in a new season of life that is important to me on the personal level and wanting to feel really fulfilled and satisfied personally, because that is going to not only help me to be a better mom, help me to be a better partner, but also really help me to be a better clinician, supervisor, and counselor educator.
Love it, love it, love it. You are on point today. Okay. You are blessing me. I'm sure you are blessing the listeners. And before we leave, on this show, we don't do homework because homework, you take it home, you do it, you never remember it. We do life work. Life work is something that we could do that allows us to pivot. And to me, when it comes to humility, anytime we pivot, shift our perspective or thinking, we change. So if you can offer something to the listeners, some life work, something that they can do to pivot, what would it be?
Mm. I think make sure that you cultivate a passion. And
Mm,
that passion could be professional, could be personal, could be a combination of both. But if we don't foster and really connect with our passions, because I'll speak for myself. I lead with passion, for better or for worse. And that is what has helped me to be a connector, to help me feel connected, and helped me to figure out what spaces in my life, personally and professionally, are going to be congruent with my needs, my wants, and my personality.
well said. Well said. You are a blessing. You are a gift. You are such a
Likewise.
gift. And on this show, we give flowers. Okay. So here is your bouquet. I appreciate you so much for being you. I'm so thankful that you still got your crown and you rock it. Anytime you need it, you still rock it. I'm still a part of your life and your experience because that time that we had together was life changing for both of us. And I don't know if we could be who we are and where we are without our time together. And I feel the same way for you about relationships and friendships and connections and where we are and who we are. We don't have a lot of room for a lot of people, you know, and for us to have room for each other is a blessing and it's a gift that keeps on giving. I appreciate you for being who you are authentically and who you were and who you're becoming. And I'm thankful to be a part of this journey with you because you're a part of my journey as well. So I appreciate you, for being on this show, for giving the listeners you. And without further ado, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to connect with you, they want to put some money in your cash app, they want, they want to do business with you, they want to be a client, customer, friend, whatever. How can people connect?
Well, I feel like I'm soliciting here.
And it's
You can go
okay.
onto my website.
Let's go. That's why we here.
It's njcounseling.com. Actually, I want to make sure that that's accurate. I think it is.
It is for the day.
Yes. Yes,
It
yes,
is for the
yes.
day.
Yes. And I mean, feel free to obviously reach out to me. My email is Sarah, Sarah Springer, Springer, PhD at gmail.com. So all one word, Sarah I Springer, PhD. Yeah, I would love to. I love getting, sometimes I'll speak at a conference or just connect with someone at a conference and then say, hey, I'd love to keep in touch. And I actually have a number of a couple of people, a couple of folks that I have just randomly met that we have monthly meetings just to connect, and we get to know each other's professions, and it's really amazing. So I welcome the opportunity to connect with everyone.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Well, I don't know if you're going to keep this on the podcast, but one thing I am both so grateful and also sad about with both of us is that our children don't have an opportunity to grow up together.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
I
keeping it on the
really,
show is honest. Yes.
again, no, but yeah, I'm so grateful when I get to see your boys grow up. It's really special, and I wish I got a chance to get to know them, and I wish my kids did too. So I hope one day we will have the opportunity to have our kids connect.
Same here. And it's going to happen. We ain't got no choice. Okay.
Yes.
It's going to happen. And to the listeners, just to let y'all in the basement a little bit more, during this time when we were together, Sarah and I both were out. We were single and mingling, out dating, and we would come back together. How did your date go? How did your date go? Oh, you won't believe you won't believe.
Yep. Love that.
That was our experience, and we were helping each other. Like, what's a woman's perspective? What's a male perspective? What do you do in this situation, that situation? And because of that, we were able to date and get to know people, which helped us get to know ourselves. And over time, we both found our person. And it happened very, I would say synonymously, like it was very connected, interconnected, where I met Mia and Sarah met Jake, and it was this moment of, wait a minute, I think this is something special. I think
And it was
this
like
is,
right around the same time.
yes.
That's just so crazy.
And it
Yeah.
was it
And then,
was
yeah.
instant. We knew. So we had help, we had support with each other. And look where we are now, all these years later. And to me, that's humanness. That's also a destination helper. So, Sarah, I don't know if you know this or not, you have been my destination helper. And if it wasn't for you, I couldn't be him. All caps, no blue hat. And if it wasn't for me being placed in your path, you couldn't be her. All caps. And I ain't talking about the R&B singer with the guitar. Okay. I'm talking about her, you being you. And I'm thankful for
Yes.
this. And for us to share our truth with the listeners proves and gives evidence that you can have it all by becoming the best version of you possible. Dr. Springer,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What
Thank you.
a pleasure. I'm so glad to have this time with you, Jason. Thank
Same
you.
here. Same here. And to listeners, I hope y'all got something. If you didn't, rewind it. This has been another episode of Three Parallels Podcast with your host, the brother Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we were, we embrace who we are, and we make room for who we're trying to become. If that is you, welcome to the show. And this is the gift that keeps on giving. Every episode is going to give you something that you can do something with to become the best version of you possible. Continue to tune in. I will see you soon. Have a great day, great morning, great life. Good night. Peace.